I was never particularly a political guy. I'm a registered independent. I'm not a Democrat or Republican. I didn't really, when I turned 18, didn't know the difference between the two anyway. I was living in Texas about 4 years ago, and a friend of mine was working a job making minimum wage, trying to save up money for college. And he got a phone call one day from a company called Halliburton. You guys know? Yeah. There's the boo. Sometimes there's booing, sometimes there's just laughter, sometimes there's both. I'm always curious to see how people respond. Anyway, Halliburton called my friend, and they said that they would pay him $90,000 for 1 year if he drove a truck in Iraq for the private sector. And he called me, and he called a couple of our other friends, and he asked us what we thought he should do. And I remember thinking it was a really sad day when the world's richest country could only offer 2 opportunities for a friend of ours who wanted to go to college. And that was minimum wage or 90 grand in a war zone. And I got even more cynical than I already was. And I looked a little at politics a little bit, and I wondered why things were the way they were. And I realized that we've had 2 families controlling the White House for the last 20 years. I think they've had some great ideas, but they haven't been able to get anything done. If they had, then my friend wouldn't have to make this decision about how to pay for college. And about 4 weeks after this happened, I was watching TV, and it was the 2004 Democratic National Convention that was on. And I heard a guy say, especially after 9/11, we shouldn't be divided between blue states and red states. We should be focused on being the United States. And my ears kind of perked up, and I looked at the television. I thought, who is this? And by the end of his speech, my computer was on the side of the couch, and I was completely focused on, the TV was turned up all the way, and I thought, this guy, Barack Obama, who's delivering this keynote at the Democratic National Convention, he needs to be president. And obviously, from the people standing in this room, it was not a unique idea that I had. 4 years later, he is running for president of the United States. You should know that a group that was started on Facebook called Draft Obama for President has turned into the group Students for Barack Obama, which has been pivotal in getting folks organized and voting. When I saw that he was running for president, I looked at his stances on issues, and 3 things came to mind. Education was obviously number 1 for me. Senator Obama is proposing a $4,000 tax credit for every person that wants to go to college, and that's not per family, that's per student. The reason I bring that up is a lot of people have 3, 4, 5 brothers and sisters, and families have to decide which one gets to go to college. That's not acceptable to Senator Obama, nor I think should it be acceptable to any of us. So if you have 5 brothers and sisters, each of you will get $4,000 to go to college every year. And that's something that would have helped my friend right off the bat. So there was that. There was the fact that he is the only major presidential candidate to have opposed the Iraq War from the beginning. Senator Obama gave 150,000 kids and their parents health care when he was an Illinois state senator. So he's actually had the experience of getting it done. He made Democrats and Republicans sit down together. You know, if you know about how Congress works, you know, you need 60 votes in the Senate to get a bill passed. And somebody who's polarizing, whether you're a Democrat or a Republican, just won't get anything done. But the fact is that even Republicans that maybe disagree with Senator Obama on policy still have an incredible amount of respect for him. So his ability to get bills passed is going to be pretty significant. It's going to be something we've never seen before. So I decided I was going to volunteer, and Iowa was the first state to have their version of the primary, the caucus. It was on January 3rd. So I figured I'll go up to Iowa and I'll do 2 days of volunteering. And I got there, and I saw a bunch of volunteers and staff members and students who had dedicated so much of their time, and I figured I can't just stay for 2 days, I'm going to stay for the next month. But I will admit that there was a writer's strike going on in LA, so I had no job. So that's why I could afford to take the month and go do that. So something that happened when the writer's strike was starting up was we realized the connections between how much money young folks were making for media companies and how that translated into the election. There's something called the youth demographic, right? If you're between the ages of 17 and 30, movie studios will sell you movies, you know, soda companies want to sell you Coke and Pepsi. And I don't think it's incidental that that same group, 17 to 30-year-olds, are what are called the youth vote. And in Iowa, for example, the average age of folks that voted in the caucus system in 2004 was 65 years of age. That was the average. And cynics from CNN to MTV to everyone in the middle said, college students are never going to go vote. They don't care enough. You know, apparently they thought that we can't do anything about the war in Iraq, or we can't do anything about how to take care of our parents when they get older, or we can't do anything about healthcare and the environment. And what's so amazing is, I know you've heard the slogans, but to see each individual person come together in this huge chorus of voices to say, yes, we can, made voter turnout in the state of Iowa increase for young folks by 150% between 2004 and Facebook is probably the most incredible example of what I'm trying to say. Facebook was started by two guys in college in their 20s in Boston. These two guys are still in their 20s, and Facebook just sold for $1.6 billion. The reason I bring that up is that's wealth that we have collectively created for people roughly our own age. We've created billions of dollars in wealth by sitting in front of our computers. Tagging photos, inviting your friends to events like this, sending out invitations. And I think a lot of us realize that if we can create billions of dollars in wealth for people our own age, just by sitting in front of our computers, think about the opportunity that we have to change the face of a presidential election. Not just that, but think about the opportunity that we have to change the way that politics operate in this country. It's a rare opportunity that I know that I don't think we've had in our lifetime. We certainly haven't had anyone to rally behind. I'm going to tell you one quick story, and then Eric and I can take some questions about Senator Obama. 3 days before the Iowa caucus, when voters there, you know, made their voices heard, there were about 150 of us that were sitting in Senator Obama's volunteer office in Des Moines. And this guy walked in. It was around 10:30 at night. We were finishing up all our phone calls, putting together packets to knock on doors, reach out to folks, get them informed. And this guy walks in. He was about 70 years old. He had a cowboy hat and cowboy boots on. And he was introduced as the head of the Iowa Farmers Union. And he asked us to stop working for a couple of minutes. And he said, as long as he's been alive, politicians have descended on the state of Iowa for, you know, as long as he can remember. And every 4 years, these politicians come to Iowa, and these politicians make promises to family farmers, and these politicians tell them what they want to hear. Then the election happens, the politicians leave, and 4 years later, a new set of politicians come in, because the momentum that's created is going to go all around the country. And that's what these politicians do. And he said, before you guys go back to work, I want you to go to a dictionary and look up the definition of the word politician. And then look up the definition of the word statesman. Because this is the first time in my life, he says, that I have had the chance to know a true statesman. The reason that I wanted to share that story with you is because I would love for you guys to do the same thing. When you go back to your houses, your apartments, wherever you live, share this with your friends. I know some of you might be undecided. Some of you might be wondering whether or not one vote actually matters. Look up the definition of the word politician and look up the definition of the word statesman, because this is the first time in our lives that we have the chance to elect a real statesman to be the next president of the United States. And we would love to have you join us. It really is a very grassroots movement for change. It's something that we're really proud to be part of. We need a lot of volunteers. We would love for you to vote early. You can vote early. You can vote absentee. And then come join us, making phone calls, knocking on doors, right up until the 4th, when you guys have your primary. It has already made a huge difference. Ohio is in the unique position of being able to really determine who the Democratic nominee for the President of the United States is. We would love to have you be part of this. So thank you so much for having us.